Hey everyone, welcome back to CryptoCache. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I hope you're having a fantastic day, of course, taking a look at Bitcoin, helping you understand where it's going to go next, and obviously, instilling best practice and big picture for you too, of course, because I think it is important when situations like this occur to be kind of a little more cautiously optimistic and to try not to just FOMO in and all that good stuff, because there are a handful of things coming up. I think we do have some earnings reports as well, what Amazon and Apple, if I'm not mistaken. And you got to understand too that I think Google went down recently based on their earnings. So there's a handful of things that might affect the NASDAQ stock exchange, and that would essentially trickle down into Bitcoin as well, because it does have somewhat of a pairing there. And just to kind of preface here, just throwing it up here, you can see the NASDAQ is down on the day. And of course, Bitcoin's sort of following suit. Okay, so again, it's not 100% pairing, but they are fairly similar in a lot of ways. Okay, again, just something to kind of think about. All right, so if you are new to the channel, just know I'm not a financial advisor. Love to teach people to trade. Really hope you can learn something here today. And if you do, go ahead and comment below. Let me know. I'd love to hear that. If not, that's okay too. Whatever you can do to grow as a trader is important. And if you want to become a better one, CryptoCache.tech is a site where you can essentially become a better trader yourself. I have a trading academy, community, and signal group. It's a fun, phenomenal experience. Thank you again so much to all my current community members for just being amazing parts of my life. And speaking of amazing parts of my life, take a look at this here. We got some amazing trade results. Alexandria, of course, killing it with 35% there. SAC is really starting to pick up the pace here too with some of his long 50Xs. And obviously just a lot of really good situations here. I mean, I think this is actually not one of our community members, but they are, of course, a subscriber. They made a healthy percentage off of Clay USDT. So again, just some things to kind of think about, and that goes without saying too, our signals here recently, we got some pretty healthy profits there from Bitcoin and a lot of Ethereum trades too. So just really awesome experience here. Again, 175% from our Ethereum here recently. It did take us 16 weeks to receive 175%, but I think that's a little bit better than the traditional markets, right? Or perhaps even better than putting your money into a bank or a traditional bank right now and getting 0.01% interest, right? So a little bit better. All right, so going to take a look here, of course, at the daily and work our way down, kind of go from here. So in the sense of where we're at, we've already established that we've broken through some pretty important trend lines. Both descending trends, long-term and short-term, and of course, it hasn't looked back since. Now that we're here, we need to establish what a support and resistance levels are. And based on Fibonacci retracement and just previous most recent resistance levels, we can see 20,500 is a nice round number, is essentially the resistance slash support level. So previous resistance, now working as a support. You can see the price action wicked down to this level and bounced off of it essentially. Okay, so again, it's doing what it's supposed to do, which is holding the price action in place, because right now the bulls want to keep the price at that point or higher, and the bears are trying to push it down and they're not having any success. Okay, that's essentially what's happening. So that being said, if we take a look down below, of course, at obviously a handful of other things, we can see that the RSI is tapering off, which is good. We don't want the RSI to be over 70. In most cases, that's typically disadvantageous, where you can see the price action pull back a lot harder because of that. But if the RSI were to kind of just naturally taper off down closer to 50, we should see a bouncing point. So if Bitcoin were to consolidate at this area, it'd be a very positive sign for a next leg up. And a lot of times what you can see with situations like this is the price action comes up and it works itself into an ascending type of wedge and then inevitably breaks to the upside. Okay, again, because it's consolidating at that previous resistance, the new support. All right, so these are all positive things here. One thing that might be slightly disadvantageous, and actually it's not really, come to think of it, is that this is still gaining momentum. Okay, now if we're start seeing this coming back down, that could be foreshadowing a reversal, but we're a long ways from that. So I'm not going to concern myself with that. That's not a big deal at all. Let's take a look, of course, at the simple moving averages and recognize that we are above the 50 and the 20. The 200 is trailing well behind. That's roughly up here about 25,000 currently. So we got some time before we run into that. But you got to keep in mind, we do have potential for golden cross eventually when the 50 intersects with the 200, so that the likelihood of the price action continuing higher from here is greater. Okay, we generally got to understand that. Again, it doesn't mean it's going to necessarily converge, so to speak, because MACD, for example, it'll come close and it'll turn itself around. Like there's no guarantees. But this is a positive sign nonetheless to be above the 50 for the moment. And we have a pretty solid 2-day closure above that. I think it's safe to say that's going to work as a support level. So if we were to kind of just say, look at the smaller time frames here and well, just a little bit closer rather, we can see that right here at about 19,658 from now, basically 19,700, is essentially where the 50-day SMA is averaging itself out. That's right, really close to that previous support and resistance level of 19,800. So hypothetically, we lose 20,500, 19.8 would be the next bouncing point. Okay? All right. So again, that's just kind of the things that I like to look at on the daily. I would say it's mostly positive here at this moment. Let's go ahead and take a quick look at the simple moving average. Now, when we're above all four moving averages, or sorry, all three, you can speculate that the price action is going to continue higher. Because in most cases, you will see the 20-day simple moving average work as an ascending type of trend. And a lot of times that'll continue to hold the price action in place in bearish momentous trends. Not saying we're going to see the price action just bounce from here, but there's a stronger likelihood of a bounce off of 20,500 as I expected yesterday to the upside. So I feel more confident and comfortable in a long position right now than I do a short. The only thing I'd recommend waiting on is, of course, the tech industry results there. There's a lot of things coming to a head this week. Is a really big week for the tech industry for earnings reports, so just keep that in mind. That could very well sway things in a different direction. But nonetheless, we got some pretty positive things here in that sense. I like that we're above all moving averages for the moment. Taking a look at the RSI, you can see it kind of coming down to bounce off of 70. This is a common characteristic when the price action is well above 70 on the RSI. So it could very well continue higher, but I would again speculate that we might see a little bit further downside first before it jumps up. There is potential we're going to lose this support level here at 20,500. It wouldn't invalidate this bullish trend. It would just simply tell us that we're calming down, we're relaxing a little bit, and it wouldn't be the end of the world. But we do want it to hold, of course, because that would just make things better and easier for us overall. So what I'm getting at is that the price action goes sideways for the next 24 hours as a result of the earnings reports, so to speak, from some of these large tech industries. I would say that we're probably going to be in pretty good shape to see a continuation of the upside. Again, most of the technical analysis here, minus those fundamentals we cannot foresee, are looking pretty good. Okay. Again, overextended on the 4-hour, no doubt about it. But it is calming down, it is relaxing a little bit. As we can see with TD sequential, we're down to a 4. Hypothetically, we have another 20 hours of downtrend, but that's not 100% because, again, you don't always have to hit a 9. But we did hit a 9 recently to the upside, and it makes sense that it's pulling back. Taking a look at the MACD too, this is also something you really want to understand, is a simple fact that when you have this divergence and the 12 intersects with a 26 in a downward fashion, these are exponential moving averages, this essentially could be cause for concern where the price action might continue lower. So again, it has momentum, it's starting to gain momentum to the downside, but it's not significant enough yet to warrant a short position. Okay, I would say we need to close below 20,500 today to possibly consider further downside. Right, so that's kind of what I'm ultimately looking for. For the moment, though, closure above 20,500 today would be pretty solid in the sense of a likelihood of further upside. Okay, taking a look at the 1 hour though, if we take a look at the Ichimoku cloud, we can see that the all of the signals here, the lagging span, the conversion lines below the baseline now. Those are 2 out of 3 indicators essentially letting us know that we would have wanted to trim our position and or close our long position if we have one open. Okay, so just bear that in mind. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to. This is a very conservative indicator, but it does imply that there's some potential for downside, right? So when you see this conversion line below the baseline, that kind of tells you that the MACD on the 4-hour, which is a very similar moving average, is going to essentially diverge to the downside. Okay, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a hard one. We could even see a bounce, honestly. This could be the lowest point in which the price action goes right now, but I would just say prepare for the worst and hope for the best. Of course, expect the worst, hope for the best, as I usually say, because we don't truly know where we're headed just yet. But good news is we're above the cloud, and that's a very important thing, and that helps us understand that we are on the right side of the tracks for the moment. Okay, so again, the price action remains at this level. By this time tomorrow, absolutely green check mark to take a long position to the upside. For right now, I'd recommend considering waiting a little bit just to ensure that these tech stocks don't destroy Nasdaq, for lack of better terms, or hit them hard to the downside, because that correction from Nasdaq will absolutely reflect on Bitcoin. So again, just a little bit of things we want to take into consideration. We take a look at TD sequential. We're seeing a lot of different resets here, so it is allowing for enough consolidation at this price point to inhibit this to continue higher, okay? So again, that's kind of what we're looking at as potential. I do think that further upside seems more likely. We just might see a dip first before we get there, right? That's kind of what I'm seeing here so far. So again, all in all, mostly positive, but shards of negative, depending on how you look at it and what kind of trade you're holding. But I do think further upside is practical and more likely realistic with Bitcoin. But I would not be surprised if we see the price action consolidate at the current area for a couple more days, perhaps even throughout the weekend, with a nice push up next week. Just keep in mind, if I'm not mistaken, is the Fed, I think the Feds are meeting on the 2nd of November. So just be mindful of that. That could be another bombshell. You want to be cautious and careful going into that trading day. So we got roughly about a week before then, but generally speaking, between now and then, I think we should see some sideways action, perhaps some up action over the weekend, early next week, and some insanity come Wednesday. So just fun stuff that we all love to enjoy. But I do think Bitcoin it's going to be able to stabilize itself where it's at. It could definitely come lower. Don't get me wrong. There's possibility of that, but it's less likely for us to lose 20,500. If we get a closure above 20,500 today, I think that would validate. Again, as I mentioned yesterday, I sent this to my community members and anyone else on social media. Is that we have closure above 20,500 both today and yesterday is extremely important. It does validate a bullish uptrend. Okay, so again, you got to get in your head though, we're not going to just shoot to the moon tomorrow. Okay, some people kind of think that that's how things work just because you break a trend line. It doesn't necessarily happen that way. It can, it does, it has, but should it? No. We don't want it to, because then it'll just turn around and nosedive immediately after that, especially when we have a Fed meeting next week. So going into this, I would just say cautiously optimistic, be careful, and obviously protect your investment. There's a handful of things that I like to teach in my trading community. Make sure you check that out. If you are part of the community and you haven't watched my trading videos, please make sure to do that. That is available through my website. And once more, if you're not following me on social media, just greatly appreciate you doing so. Links in the description below, just so we can kind of stay abreast. I hope that you have a great rest of your day. We'll look forward to seeing the next one. Take care.